Sox in the basement.
A week on a beach, and I'm feeling relaxed. Are you relaxed, Ed? Are you more relaxed now that the White Sox have won a few games? Because last we talked, they were 1-5 out of the gate, and it was brutal.
Yeah, I'm more relaxed about the White Sox. I mean, I don't love the fact that the most consistent thing they've done this year is blow leads, but you know, I think there's signs of hope from the pitching staff that the starters are going to go deeper. That might help the bullpen. Some of these guys have looked better. You know, sometimes I think it's a Will Venable situation where he's letting guys go longer than they should. And, you know, other than the fact that the outfield is a disaster right now with guys either underperforming and not taking advantage of an opportunity, or guys like Austin Hayes getting hurt, unfortunately. You know, there's still a lot going on here where you look at this White Sox team and you go, okay, you know, we're early on, and you know, there's some stuff that we can. There's room for improvement, but it's not terrible.
You know, look, they're 4-3 since we last talked live, because the last episode was me just kind of recounting. Actually, now 4-4. They just lost to the Royals. They're talking on Friday night. Okay, so they're 4-4. They're 500, and actually 5-5 out of their last 10 or something like that, or something close to that. They're basically playing 500 baseball after stumbling out of the gate, and that's what you expect from this team. You know, there's going to be little stumbles, but if they can sit between 3 and 5 games under 500. All the way through Memorial Day, I think the second half of the season, they're a much better team. So, like, what I like is that they're finding ways to win. They're trying to find additional ways to win. There's some cutthroat moves coming from the front office. I want to get into that today. And I mentioned that I haven't been around for a week. There was an episode while I was away on Sanibel Island in Florida, which was me just replaying all of the guests from the offseason to get a clear winner of the $1,000 guest bounty. That is going to be announced before this show is over. The voting has closed, and we do have a very clear winner in that contest. I cannot wait to announce that and award the $1,000. And thank you again to Cork and Carry at the Park for providing that. We'll get into that more later on in the show. But it has been a while since we've talked, and in that time since we've talked, I got to tell you, there are things about this team that I'm excited about. There are things about this team that give me hope. There are also things about this team that are a little humorous. There are some things that I didn't expect about this team, and I've been waiting. Like I had a lot of time to relax and spend time with family. I took a long 2-hour walk along the beach the other day and just kind of contemplated life. And I'm very well relaxed now. But I've thought a lot about this team too. I really have. I mean, in my spare time, I think I've read every article about the White Sox because for some reason I can't quit this team even when I'm on vacation. So there's a lot that I want to get into. This episode of Sox in the Basement, and every episode brought to you by Hyatt Home Medical Equipment. Switch to a new age of life. Keep mom and dad, grandma and grandpa out of assisted living. Make it so they can get around on their own and live independently with stair lifts, ramps, grab bars, lift chairs, and even bathroom remodeling. Heck, if you've had an injury and you're going to be out of commission or not 100% for a while, Hyatt has what will help you get around your own home. They work with insurance. They have 0% financing for qualified individuals, the latest and greatest in CPAP machines, the latest and greatest in continuous glucose monitors, and so much more. See what Hyatt Home Medical Equipment can do for you at hhme.com. I want to start with the Shane Smith story because I could not wait to talk about it. I was astounded when looking at this staff, and the numbers have been updated since when Smith was sent down to AAA. But here's just a quick snapshot of the other 4 guys. The other 4 guys in the rotation, Burke, Martin, Kay, and Fetty, have whips, walks, and hits per innings pitched, my favorite stat in pitching. Not everybody agrees with me, but I love it because it means you're not putting guys on base. They range between 1.07 and 1.18. That's normally reserved for superstar pitchers in starting rotations, or really good ones, top of the rotation guys, or really, really effective relief pitchers. I mean, super closers, the elite, get below 1. But to be sitting in the 1-0 something to the 1 teens, that's impressive. And they have 4 starters doing that right now in Burke and Martin and Kay and Fetty. And Davis Martin is averaging a complete start every game. He's got 18 innings pitched over 3 starts with 2 wins and a whip of 1.11. And a quality start. I mean, a quality start is 6 innings pitched with 3 runs or less given up. Well, he has 3 games where he's only given up a total of 5 earned runs and pitched 18 innings with that whip. He's the clear ace of the staff. And then you get a Shane Smith, who I asked Scott Merkin just about a week ago on this show, how long of a leash on Shane Smith? And he chuckled at me. Go back and listen to it. He chuckled at me. And I love Merk. But he thought it was, I think he thought it was absurd that I asked that question. Because I'm sure he was shocked too. The guy gets 3 starts, doesn't even have 9 total innings pitched at that point. His whip's like 2.5. He was brutal. And hats off to Chris Getz and the front office for saying enough. What I love about what I've seen with this team is that this front office is cutthroat. Now, I did get a message from a fan after I tweeted that out from the beach. Well, what are they doing about Benintendi? Benintendi's $15 million a year. The owner is going to get angry if they decide to get rid of Andrew Benintendi after a couple of bad weeks to start off the season. But you can do it with Shane Smith. And they did it, and I love it, and I was excited to see him do it because you know what it says? It says we do want to win more games than we lose this year. We do want to take that next step in this rebuild, and we do want to hold guys accountable. And guess what? There's plenty of guys that can pitch in this organization. If you're not ready to do your job, go down to AAA and work it out because the bus is not stopping for you. And I love it, Ed.
Yeah, I mean, you asked the question, what about Benintendi? Well, you've seen what about Benintendi. Is he playing left field all the time? No. Is he playing every day? No. Even though he's one of the highest paid players on the team.
He's in a platoon role right now.
He's platooning. Yeah, that's what about Benintendi. They're being pretty ruthless with a guy that they're paying a lot of money to. And with Shane Smith, now I will say, I thought Will Venable pulled him a little fast in the opening day start. I know he gave up. I know he gave up the grand slam, but I thought Venable could have let him go a little bit further. And the last start he had was a lot better. But what this team needs is they need guys that will go 5 or 6 innings, and then as the season progresses here, those guys are going to stretch to 6, 7 innings.
They got to get to 6 or 7 innings. They got to do what one of our guests that are up, and we're going to have the announcement later on the show, Don Cooper kept saying, you need pitchers that are going to go deeper in games in this 4 or 5 inning stuff. And they got guys right now sitting right at 6 or just, they're at 5, 6, like you said. They got to get a little bit further into games. They can't do any less than that. And so, again, that was a problem with Smith.
Yeah, and you look at Eric Fetty and you feel like he's building up to going 7. You look at Davis Martin, I feel like at some point we're going to see him throw a complete game the way he's been pitching. And he just has to get a little bit further, a little bit more efficient, a little bit more stretched out. Defense has to help all these guys out more. The one that I question is Anthony Kay. He seems like a guy that's going to run up his pitch count pretty quickly. And if you were watching his last start, when he fell apart at the end at 5 2/3 after an error extended the inning, he really fell apart. I mean, he couldn't find the plate for anything, and he almost took Jack Caglione's head off. So it's one of those where if you can get Martin going 7 very consistently and Fetty going 6 or 7 very consistently and Anthony Kay getting into the 6th inning very consistently, you're doing fantastic. Shane Smith could be that guy too. We saw it last year, but he's got to figure out what it is that works for him or doesn't work for him. So, what Steve Stone was saying about it in the broadcast is that Shane Smith can't spot his fastball. He can't seem to do anything with it. Well, if you're Shane Smith, if you're working with a changeup and a good curveball, the curveball will get you so far. The changeup is worthless. If that's his bread and butter pitch, it's worthless if the fastball doesn't do anything. So that's, I think, what Will Venable is seeing. I'm sure that's what the staff is seeing. And they're probably looking at it going, go down there, figure out how to throw strikes with that thing again so that you can come back up here and be part of the staff. In the meantime, hope you don't lose your position to somebody else because there are other starters that are available. And, he's kind of lucky, Smith is, that Mike Vassell got hurt because he might have been replaced after the second start in the rotation.
And just kind of to follow up here, I mean, Davis Martin, even though he takes the loss on Friday night, 7 innings pitched, gives up 2 runs. That's a quality start. Your team's got to score runs. Okay?
Well, and that's a problem.
Your team's got to score runs, but you're right about Benintendi too. I mean, there was a moment, I don't know what day it was. You lose track of the days when you're on island time. But there was a moment where there was a big situation. And Venable goes and plays the lefty-righty matchups and decides he's like, nope, we're not gonna have you hit, Benny. We're gonna have Derek Hill go up there. And it didn't work out, but it kind of shows what the manager sees. In fact, I think Venable's the guy who told Shane Smith it's time for you to go. Chris Getz was on a scouting mission. Like, that's what I read in the paper. Correct me if I'm wrong. He's on a scouting mission. And if you listen to the quotes after he's released, they match up with things that Smith was saying to the press after he spoke with his manager post-game and then was saying things to them about how he needs to get better. The idea that he's not helping the bullpen. The idea that he's got to go deeper in the games. That he's got to figure this out because it's hurting the rest of his team. And then that's the explanation right away the next day. And if you think about it, I think the manager's making phone calls going, hey, you think you're ruthless. I'm ruthless too. It's time to move on from this guy. I don't want to lose every game this year. I got to show these guys that we want to win. If you're good, you play on this team. Look at the transactions. I could not wait to come in here in the studio and instead of looking at it on my phone, break all this down on the show. And I'm kind of doing this cold. So before I jump into this, because I know what it's going to be, I want to go through the transactions with this team because I think it really paints a picture. Before that, I want you to remember that Window and Door Superstore of Oak Forest is your place for exterior windows, doors, patio doors, and storm doors. Look no further than Window and Door Superstore of Oak Forest. No high-pressure sales. They're not in your kitchen, your living room. They're not walking around saying, what's this over here? And maybe you need to add this in even though you didn't think about it. No, you're in their showroom. You know exactly what you want. You talk to an owner. They're going to answer all your questions. There's no pictures in a book. It's all there in full living color. An owner shows up on the install day. They're there to make sure it's done right. They're using all of their own installers. They never found out the work. They've been doing it that way in Oak Forest since 1985 with all major brands custom made and no stock items for a perfect fit. If you are going to update your home, the only place to go is a half block east of 159th and Ridgeland at 6280 159th Street, Window and Door Superstore of Oak Forest. See more at windowdooroakforest.com. The transaction list for the White Sox is kind of ridiculous. Ever since opening day, I'm just trying to make a point here. Opening day is on the 26th. Just looking at the official transactions ever since Edgar Caro changes his number officially on the transaction list on opening day to 26. The next day, they send Tyler Gilbert to the minors, and they bring back Brian Hudson, who's not been very good. Okay, they sign left-handed pitcher Chase Watkins to a minor league contract. They complete the move of Curtis Mead onto the Washington Nationals. They outright Corey Lee and pass him through waivers. They activate Hudson. They sign a free agent, De La Rosa, to a minor league contract. That is a right-handed pitcher, and they enter April. And April is long. You select the contract of Lucas Sims. You send Paez. You DFA him. He ends up back on Boston, your Rule 5 pick. Okay. You sign a shortstop to a minor league contract. I mean, I haven't even gotten through the 1st of April yet. Okay. You sign a free agent right-handed pitcher to a minor league contract. You bring Tanner Murray up from the Charlotte Knights on the 5th. Perea ends up on the IL. You option a pitcher, another pitcher, a left-handed pitcher. Oh, you grabbed that guy from the Guardians. I don't know his name. Nikhazy? I think that's how you say it. Duncan Casey. Right. Okay. You pick him up off of waivers from the Guardians and you send him to the Charlotte Knights. Okay. You grab Dustin Harris. You select his contract, add him to the 40-man. You have to move guys around to be able to do that. Austin Hayes is on the 10-day list. Tyler Schweitzer comes up from the Knights, and then he goes right back to the Knights. Shane Smith is sent down to the Knights, and Brandon Iser is back up from the Knights. Duncan Davitt's up from the Knights. Chris Murphy's on the 15-day list. That's not a big loss. He hasn't been pitching very well. There's this constant movement. That's only 2 weeks. This is constant movement. Listen, there's something that when I was looking at this list on my phone, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, look, I'm looking at the transactions as they come through every day, and I'm like, man, they're making a lot of moves this week. And I went back and I found some of the quotes at the beginning of the year. from Chris Getz. And let me tell you what they're doing here. This is not just a 26-man roster, and it's not just a 40-man roster. The Major League Baseball roster and the Charlotte Knights roster is one big giant roster. That's how they're looking at this. You may be here for a day and go down the next day. You may be here for a week and go down the next week. If you stumble and fall and you go down, it's up to you to make your way back up to the majors. If you get injured, it's next man up. This is very foreign to me as a White Sox fan. Normally what happens, what the other front office used to do is say, oh no, that guy's hurt. Well, we're screwed. And they would just say, well, we just have terrible luck. If only these guys were healthy, we'd be good. Right. We just don't really have a replacement for this guy. That is not what this team is built like. And this is just the beginning because you're going to see more and more guys become available. The reason you don't have those big names coming up yet, the big pitchers that we know that are down there, the Noah Schultzes that are down there, the Hagen Smiths that are down there, the Tanner McDougalls that are down there, they're not ready yet. They're not going to rush him. Merck's right about that. He was on this show last week and he said they're not going to rush him. When he was poo-pooing my Shane Smith going to the minors idea, he was saying, well, they're not just going to bring up Noah Schultz because Shane Smith had a couple of bad games. But I think what he didn't have in his head, and I didn't have it in my head either, is that Chris Getz is like, no, I'm not going to rush a guy, but I am going to replace Shane Smith if he's not pitching with somebody else because somebody else down there has just as much talent. This guy was a Rule 5 pickup. If you can't hack it a year later, go down and fix yourself because somebody else who also was a really good pitcher on his high school team and a really good pitcher on his college team or was drafted and came up in the minors and has put up good stats in the minor leagues who could easily be somebody that somebody might grab one day in a Rule 5 off of us should get an opportunity. You are not guaranteed anything. I absolutely love that. If that's what this season is going to be, nonstop moving up and down from the minors to the majors, where there's nothing but accountability. I mean, the only accountability you can give your $15 million injured left fielder in Andrew Benintendi is you're going to make him a platoon player that doesn't play every day and doesn't see the outfield very often because your owner's not going to let you just get rid of that guy. But I see accountability across the board. It's my favorite part of the early going of this White Sox season.
Oh yeah, and I think what you're going to see is less shuttling back and forth as time goes on because some of these guys are going to stick. You know, some of these guys are going to have success, and you're not going to send them down just to send them down, just to make moves. I mean, it's not going to be that way. But like I said earlier with the outfield, at some point, okay, the outfield is very unsettled, and I don't care if you are a big trade acquisition in Luisangel Acuna. I don't care if you are a former Savannah Banana and Tristan Peters. I don't care if you're the golden child in Everson Pereira or Dustin Harris, who has an opportunity, or Derek Hill, who has an opportunity, or even when Austin Hayes gets back. If you are playing well and you establish yourself as an everyday contributor, you're going to stick around. If you don't, at some point, someone else is going to take that spot, and it might be Braden Montgomery down the road, but only when Braden Montgomery is ready to come up here and when they feel like Braden Montgomery is going to be like Colson Montgomery or like Chase Maedroth or like Edgar Caro or Kyle Teal, a guy that is going to come up and stick and have success, and this is his time. These other guys, these guys who are in between, okay, yeah, we're going to see a lot of different faces come and go, and I think accountability is going to hit some guys too that are part of the core because Edgar Caro has not impressed me to start the season.
No, he is not.
And he had an opportunity to prove that he is not just 1A, but he is 1. And that Kyle Teal's got to come in and prove that he's...
What happens if Teal comes back now and he's had a slow start and they're like, we gave Reese McGuire $1.2 million and like we want to make a point to Caro. Like, I wouldn't put anything past this front office. I wouldn't put anything past this front office to say, you know what, we're not ready to let go of Reese McGuire yet, because we're not going to carry 3 catchers. So you go down and work out your stuff in AAA and we'll see you in a month. And then we're going to give the majority of playing time to Teal, just like we gave the majority of playing time to Caro. Like there's a literal excuse to do that sitting right on the table when Teal comes back if they want to do it. Because Caro isn't doing it. I mean, look, this team is not scoring a lot of runs right now. And the reason they're not scoring a lot of, I mean, over the last couple of days, there hasn't been a really big output. I mean, just here, the month of April, they get no runs on the first. They score 5 on the third. They score 6 on the fourth. They score 3 on the fifth. 1 run on the 6th, 2 runs on the 7th, 3 runs on the 8th, 2 runs on the 9th, no runs on the 10th. They only have 4 guys with OPSs over 700 right now. And they came out of the gate hot. They were losing games, but they were like a softball team. Well, now the pitching's regulated and the hitting's not there. This is what happens when your team's at this stage in its build, right? The whole team could be streaky. Oh, our bullpen's terrible, but we're hitting really well. Now our starting pitching's good, but our hitting's terrible. Like, I mean, you're going to see these weird oddities, and they have to sit there and try to say, okay, where's this guy? Is it time for him to take a break? Is it time to bring up somebody else? It's the fascinating part of this. And you know what? I'm going to tell you something. You'll enjoy this. You'll enjoy watching and seeing whether or not a guy can make it if the team can sit around 500. If they're a couple games under, like I said, and they just kind of ride where they're at right now. After a bad start, they're basically a 500 team for the last week or a week and a half, okay, is what they basically become. If they just kind of do that and you see some talent and you see guys start to figure it out, you'll see them climb the 500. You'll be sitting around in the middle of the summer going, man, this is fun. Now, I say that out loud and they'll probably lose 10 straight because that happens every time I say something positive about this team. They just punch me right in the face like they hate me, right? Like it's an unhealthy relationship between me and this team. I love them. They're mean to me. I get angry with them. All of a sudden, they're nice to me again. It's a kind of abusive in a lot of ways. So I mean,
that's why you needed to go away that's why you needed a week on the beach.
But look at me. I'm back. Yeah. Okay. I'm back. My therapist would have a lot to say about this. Like, cause here I am. I'm back. Right. Putting up with it again. But what I like is the fact that what I like is I like the fact that there is some accountability. I like the fact that manager and front office seem to be in lockstep. There's a lot of things that I didn't see over the last decade of White Sox baseball on a consistent basis that I'm seeing here. I think that's a good base for growth for an organization that I want to see continue to take the next step after the next step after the next step. I mean, look at the guy that they just brought up. All right. Look at Dustin Harris. Now, I was just like everybody else when I saw that in my Twitter feed. Who? And then I started getting mail. Started getting listener mail through soxinthebasement.com. And people said to me things, let Dustin Harris cook. Because they were really upset in Texas. I think he came from Texas. They were really upset when he left, when they lost him. Their prospect hounds thought he was a something. I think he strikes out like 25% of the time in the minors. But just pulling up his stats right now, I don't know how accurate these are. It looks like 3 games, 2 for 6. You know, they're giving him an opportunity to play. Getting on base at a 550 clip. I mean, again, very small sample size. You know, but I mean, he's got 6 official at bats and 3 walks. So that means 9 plate appearances. And he got on base 5 times out of the first 9 times he stepped up to the plate. So everybody, they're going to give guys opportunities. I love that. And if they perform, they're going to get to play more. If they don't perform, they're not going to play as much. What a novel concept. Instead of just anointing somebody, you know, and it breeds competition. We've yelled about that for years on this show. Bring me competition. You're not blocking anybody. Forget this blocking thing. You're all baseball players. Earn your way on. I watched Moneyball on the plane because I was trying to find something calming because there was a storm the other night. So I'm all into this. Like, you know, how can you not be romantic about baseball and the Billy Bean philosophy in that movie, which is not exactly how it went, right? About the idea of if you're good, you play, and if you're bad, you sit down, right? Like, but I mean, like I was all into that the other night when I was flying back in the storm. So like, I'm kind of caught up in that idea right now. But it is something that we've talked about so much as competition, and there was competition for the $1,000 guest bounty. Brought to you by Cork and Carry at the Park, 33rd and Princeton, Shadow of the Ballpark, award-winning burgers, ballpark favorites, an amazing array of spirits and wines and craft beers rotating on those taps. Great staff, great place to get together before, during, or after the game. Yeah, on days when we're on the road, watch a road game on one of their many TVs and get the ballpark experience. We'll be out there all summer long, and I can't wait for our next guest that we'll have at the bar there. We've had a few of them there already this off season. The voting was fast and furious at soxinthebasement.com over the last week, but we do have a clear winner. And I want to tell you what my thoughts were here before the vote to decide who was the best guest of the offseason and to bring $1,000 to the person that got us that guest. I believed that it was going to be a 2-horse race. I didn't think that Larry Hawley was going to get a lot of votes. And that's nothing against Larry, but he was a late entry, right? And people really like that University of Chicago biomechanical thing. And I feel like that was like from the University of Chicago. So very easily they could have been like using their mailing list, be like, hey, everybody vote. Even if it's one vote per IP address, like everybody get their vote in. They could pump their votes up, right? Larry doesn't have that machine behind him. He does not have that machine it. Okay. And then I figured Don Cooper, he was going to be the front runner on this thing. Well, the third place vote, sorry, Larry, with 3% of the vote was Larry Hawley. I love him so much, too. I hate doing that to a former alum of WPGU. Okay. And it's not his fault. Yeah. But he ran into a buzzsaw because the other two were that was going to be the competition. But the winner was also pretty decisive, folks. With 62.9% of the vote, World Series champion Don Cooper was the best guest of the offseason. Congratulations to Coop. And congratulations to Will, who brought Coop in and got us that connection. And just an awesome guest. And congratulations to the University of Chicago guys. I mean, they still got a little over a third of the vote mathematically in that thing. And they were really good, and they're always welcome back as well because I know they have other studies. And I know Coop really enjoyed his time on the show. I got word back afterwards, so I think we can get him back on again. And I'm kind of waiting for the right time when it's the perfect time to talk pitching. And it might be when one of these big prospects comes up. It might be if this group if this group continues to increase their innings load and keep guys off base. He's going to be so happy. We're going to get happy Coop on when we talk to him, right?
Yeah.
Because that's all he wants. That's what Coop wants. Throw strikes, keep guys off base, pitch longer in the games, right? That's what he yelled about on the show. Go back and listen to the interview.
The Coop recipe for success.
The Coop recipe for success. They're following it right now on this team. It's amazing. Here's the Sox Nerd. That music means the Sox Nerd. Dave Marin is on the line. He's got his trivia, nuggets, and tidbits, and all that good stuff that he brings us all year long, and then he puts some of it up on the scoreboard at the rate. I always feel like we get the better stuff, or we get all the stuff on the scoreboard, and then we get the stuff he likes to try out, and we get the stuff that he might not be able to fit on there, and that's the benefit of listening to Sox in the Basement. And it's brought to you by the Village of Lamont. Want to experience a downtown with real history, great eats and drinks, and green spaces filled with adventure? Visit the Village of Lamont. Shop, dine, drink, explore, and see everything they have going on this weekend and beyond at lamontdowntown.com. Red Bull. Like, I'm drinking here. Like, look at me. I'm ridiculous at it.
This is a whole new side of you.
This is my post. I just got in after a week. I'm exhausted. I want to go to bed. Oh, crap. I have to get a show out. That's who this is right here. Nerd, take me home, please.
Chris, leading off, a White Sox stumper. Who was behind the plate for Mark Buehrle's perfect game of July 23rd, 2009? I'll have the answer at the end of my spiel. Here are some bits from the last week or so. Grant Taylor has really sent everyone, including me, scurrying for the record books with his recent flurry of starts as an opener. Some details. Taylor became the fifth major league pitcher since at least 1924 to start 3 times in 4 days when he took the bump for the season's first 2 home games and the first game of the Baltimore series. The results were nice, with Taylor retiring 9 of the 10 batters he faced while furnishing 3 scoreless outings. Prior to Taylor, the last hurler to start 3 times in 4 days was White Sox legend Wilbur Wood from July 17th to July 20th, 1973. Using his trademark knuckleball, the portly lefty started July 17th at Fenway Park and then started both games of a July 20th doubleheader against the Yankees in the Bronx. He was not as effective as Taylor was, though Woody was a traditional starter. In those compacted starts, Wood was 1-2 with a 10.03 ERA. Maybe those numbers are why it took 53 years for another pitcher to start 3 times in 4 days. So Taylor had 3 starts through the White Sox first 10 games, putting him on pace for 48, which would be 1 shy of the club record set by Ed Walsh in 1906 and Wood in 1972. Taylor's 1-inning stint was the shortest ever in a Sox home opener, surpassing Jose Contreras' disaster of an outing in 2007 when he was KO'd 3 batters into the second inning after giving up 5 runs in the first. That, my friends, was a bad day. Last Tuesday, the Sox moved up first pitch from 6:40 p.m. to 2 p.m. because of forecasted cold weather. The first time I remember that happening was on April 9th, 1997, when a brutal cold spell turned a Comiskey Park night game against Toronto into a matinee. This less than 24 hours after that same cold spell had postponed the first game of the series. That rescheduled clash cratered the gate as only 746 showed up to watch Roger Clemens, Luis Andujar, Dan Plesac, and Tim Crabtree three-hit the Sox in a 5-0 snoozer. By the way, there were more than 746 fans on hand at Tuesday's rescheduled affair. Temperature at first pitch for the 1997 game was 34 degrees. Last Tuesday it was 36. The coldest temp for a game at the Sox' current home was 31 degrees on 2 occasions, April 4th, 2007, and 3 days later. In case you are wondering, the Sox record at the rate when the temp is 36 or lower at first pitch is 9-9. What else? The Sox demoted Shane Smith on Wednesday, sending their 2025 All-Star representative to AAA Charlotte. The closest this came to happening before was in 1995 and 2000, when Jason Beret and James Baldwin both followed up their All-Star seasons with trip to the minors, but those trips were prompted by injuries. Tyler Schweitzer became the first product of Ball State to play for the White Sox on Wednesday. I wonder if fellow alums David Letterman, Terry Schmidt, Dan McNeil, and Joyce DeWitt were bummed that his tenure was so short. If you know who those alums are, you're probably old like me. Before I get to my stumper answer and zinger, let me remind you that gems like these and others are available on my blog, which you can access at soxinthebasement.com, and I'm also posting daily on X and Threads. Ramon Castro is the answer to my stumper. He was on the receiving end of Burley's perfecto in 2009. My zinger? With the Final Four in the rearview mirror, it's a good time to point out that the only two people, Tim Stoddard and Kenny Lofton, who appeared in both the Final Four and the World Series, also played for the White Sox. That's it, Chris. Probably more than you wanted to know about short starts, cold weather shifts, and the Harvard of Muncie, Indiana.
Sox in the basement. Sox in the basement. Sox in the basement.
Sox in the Basement. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found, and always on soxinthebasement.com.